Hello, I'm Ann Harrison, Communications Director for Workforce Alliance. On Tuesday, September 29th, Representative Sean Scanlon and Workforce Alliance hosted a public virtual roundtable on the topic of opioid recovery and the workforce. We welcomed special guest Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysewicz, and we featured the Recovery Works program, federal job training initiative and employer assistance program now operating across Connecticut. Our roundtable was attended by more than 40 participants. Panelists included Allyson Quinn, a peer recovery specialist leading the Workforce Alliance Recovery Job Training and Services Initiative. Allyson is a certified recovery coach and a person who is in long-term recovery herself. Janine Giordino was a Recovery Works participant working with Allyson. Rebecca Allen, Director of Recovery Support Services at Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery, a training partner with Recovery Works. Also, Ashley Dwyer, Member Assistant Program Director for Local 478, the International Union of Operating Engineers, and a recovery-friendly employer. Plus, Bill Villano, President and CEO of Workforce Alliance, one of 5 workforce boards across the state offering Recovery Works. We join the conversation now after brief opening remarks as peer recovery specialist Allyson Quinn explains how Recovery Works helps job seekers and employers.
So with Recovery Works, we've been able to offer job training in a number of different sectors. Now, the addiction training with CCAR has been especially popular, but through the AJC, we've been able to offer training in healthcare, manufacturing, CDL. So a large number of training services. And they're also open to any training services through the American Job Centers, so resume writing, things such as that. What I think is the most beneficial part of Recovery Works is that we are addressing those specific barriers that might be specific towards addiction. So by working with myself as a recovery coach, I'm offering recovery coaching, one-on-one sessions, wellness plans, and we're really working to address those things that may prevent someone from re-entering into the workforce and not just trying to throw them into finding a job that they may not be able to handle at the time. So as far as our employers, the Department of Labor has created a recovery-friendly toolkit, and this includes a lot of resources and information that gives employers that may help them if they don't know how to deal with an employee who has a substance use disorder. And I think that the stigma around addiction makes for a really unproductive and unsafe work environment. And I feel like that's why it's important to address that in the workplace. So part of Recovery Works, we're offering incentives to employers. We're offering wage subsidies to hire and train on the job to those people in recovery. And if you are interested in accessing that recovery-friendly toolkit, if you would like to put your contact information in the chat, we can send that over to you and I can discuss more with you about it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Allyson. Rebecca?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. In addition to being the Director of Recovery Support Services for CCAR, I'm also a woman in long-term recovery. So I know firsthand how important it is, not just to have a job, but to have a job that is meaningful and allows you to give back and make a difference. So CCAR is supporting the Department of Labor in a couple of different ways. So the first way is that we're providing training for individuals that are interested in becoming recovery coaches. So recovery coaches work with people affected by substance use disorders. Studies have shown that trained peers with lived experience have higher success rates at engaging individuals that need help. So these recovery coaches are individuals with lived experiences. They work with people on all different pathways of recovery. They don't diagnose or treat addiction or mental health issues. They focus on the future and they help with decision making and things that will help that individual improve their lives one step at a time. So this is a 5-day, 30-hour training, and it's really the base of recovery coach training. So CCAR developed the training in 2008, and to date, we've trained over 50,000 recovery coaches nationally with this curriculum. So it's very popular. But it really is the beginning for people. It's the beginning of their training. As a recovery coach, you do have to have additional training around things like ethics and, medication assisted treatments and things like that. So that's one of the initiatives that we're working with the Department of Labor on. The other is around their recovery friendly employer initiative. So Allyson mentioned the toolkit that's available. In addition to the toolkit, CCAR is providing a 1-day training for employers that are interested. This training is kind of a quick version of our Recovery Coach Academy training, but it's really to work with employers on, kind of reducing the stigma in the workplace that's associated with substance use disorders. A substance use disorder is a medical condition and should be treated like one. So, having those conversations in the workplace, making the environment a supportive place for either, your current employees that may be struggling or future employees that are coming into the workforce. So we're really grateful to be supporting the Department of Labor and really recognize their efforts to support people that are struggling with opioid use disorders.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. And just to let everyone know, we are recording today's session. So just putting that out there for you, and a reminder to please place any of your questions in the chat. Next, I'd like to introduce Janine to talk about her experience. So Janine, you've battled opioid addiction and you came to Recovery Works in hopes of finding training to work in the recovery field. How has Recovery Works helped you so far? Oh, Janine, you got to take yourself off mute. There you go.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, my name is Janine, and I struggled with the opioids for many years. Just to give you a little bit of a background, I'm born and raised in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I was filled with dreams. I was a professional ballet dancer. I worked in the work field. I was a legal secretary, and I was a productive member of society. My opioid addiction stole and robbed everything from me. I struggled for many, many years. I am currently, though, the flip side is currently I've entered in a 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am 2 years into my sobriety. I'm currently still residing. I came back to Connecticut. I was struggling with my addiction in New York City, and I still reside in Brooklawn Women's Sober House in Bridgeport, where I have learned how to build my strong foundation, and I still currently live here. But the only thing that was missing was Sean was speaking about a purpose, and that I just so relate to. The thing that was missing is a purpose in the workplace for employment. I was introduced to Recovery Works, and my purpose was then found. Recovery Works basically helped me with peer support. Not only peer support, but they have allowed me and given me the tools to move forward and bridge myself back into the work field. And it's given me the opportunity as well to introducing me and giving me the opportunity to become a recovery coach, which is my dream. To give back to the community and to help other people that struggle with, addiction. And, so I look forward to giving back to the community and basically my new quest for purpose and basically my passion for life is being fulfilled,
Great.
to Recovery Works. So thank you.
Thanks, Janine. Thanks for being here and for sharing that. You talk about having purpose and returning to the workforce, which is,
Yes.
I think what everyone is looking for, who's in a similar situation. And that's actually a good segue for us to talk to Ashley Dwyer. Ashley, with Local 478, what does it mean to be a recovery-friendly employer?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Anne. So first, I'll start off what Local 478 has done. We began our peer program about 10 years ago. And we started locally within our local union. We have about 3,000 members. We also cover their families. And we've noticed that a lot of our construction workers were either drinking or abusing drugs on the job. And we had no way, we did not know what to do. We know that members were struggling and they were calling a 1-800 number and they were not getting the help they needed. So Kyle, who's actually the director of the program, and I sat down and we said, we need to do something. So we got together and we talked to our business manager who allowed us to begin a program. So we started our program here, and it was a members assistance program, which took, we got trained as peers, and we began to kind of advertise our program to our members. And it started off a little slow, but as of today, we've helped hundreds of our members, including hosting every Thursday night a recovery group for members and their families within. We have the upper hand as being a union. We have our collective bargaining agreements with our contractors. So when it comes to our members who need help, we have that little bit of power to be able to let them know and say, listen, these are great workers. They just have a disease, they need some help. So many times our employers who have taken to our program really well will give our members or or who needs to take time for their families as well, the chance to go and get better. And we also always let them know that, keep in mind that entering into recovery is not a one-stop fix option. A lot of times people in recovery need other services. They need to go to groups and meetings, and so we make sure that our employers are educated on the program as well as our peers. And just years ago, our international, which are within the United States and Canada, picked up our program. And Kyle and myself designed a 4-day, 40-hour training that we teach to our entire, whoever wants to come to our course. It's for an entire country in Canada, and we give them the tools to take back to their locals and assist their members in members assistance programs. As far as employers who want to be on board and help their members, but they're not sure exactly where to go, the first thing is removing the stigma, opening the lines of communication, knowing that there are going to be struggling people on your workforce. I mean, I can't think of what the statistic is, but it's alarming, but almost every job has at least someone in recovery. And just being there for that person, and also not forgetting the families. A lot of people, a lot of times, forget the families of that struggling person. They said, okay, let's send this person to get some help. But the families are broken as well, and they need some healing too, because if you take a person out of that family and put them back into a home that's not fixed, you're gonna get back into the same problem. So the biggest thing is removing the stigma and open the lines of communication and making your employees feel comfortable coming to talk to you, and also allowing them to get help. And there are different treatment modalities. You have in-home treatment, you have outpatient treatment, and inpatient. There's all kinds of programs out there. So just opening the lines of communication and making sure that your workers feel comfortable talking to you if they have a problem.
Great, thank you, Ashley. And I see a lot of people nodding their heads in agreement, especially your comments about families and how everyone is affected.
Yes.
I'm going to jump in at this point just because we do have a couple of questions in the chat that I wanted to address. So there was a question that came up about bonding. Are there bonds for employers who may experience a risk of loss from hiring an addict? So I'm going to ask either Allyson or even Representative Scanlon to answer that. But quickly, one of the incentives through Recovery Works is incentives to employers to hire trainees for this program, and they can offset the wage for that new hire through agreeing to do on-the-job training or paid work experience. So that is something that I know is offered by Allyson or Representative Scanlon or even Lieutenant Governor. Do you have anything to add on that question?
So I don't know what the answer to that is, but there should be something to encourage employers to try to help their employees, and we should. And I know a lot of employers have employee assistance programs, but a lot of people don't realize they exist. And I love what Ashley was saying about how they very proactively just started to make people aware, and how they even have a group. And because it's that person to person connection, and also people realizing that others, that their peers may be also struggling, and there's not a stigma to getting help, and there's a supportive environment. I think I was just so pleased to hear about that. I don't know the answer on the bond front. Do you know, Sean?
Anne, I would say that I don't know specifically about bonding for individuals that have had some substance abuse, but as you know, we've had a reentry program for ex-offenders since 2005, and there are a couple of different federal programs that provide bonding for ex-offenders, extraordinary kinds of coverage for that. So I would be surprised if there wasn't similar programs for individuals in this instance.
Great. So we're capturing all these questions in the chat, and we will follow up with any resources that we can find to help answer that question. That's a great question. Thank you for that. There was another question that came up really quickly, and then I will move on to our next question about how long the wage subsidy would be for on-the-job training. And that is actually a case-by-case basis, but typically it's about 12 to 16 weeks. So it's a good long time to get someone up to speed and provide that training as well. And that will come down to your discussion with business services. In addition, Allyson we're collecting a lot of contact information to send out that employer toolkit that seems to be a popular resource that people are asking about. So that's great news. Next, I'm going to go back to Bill Villano. He again is president and CEO of Workforce Alliance. So Bill, why is this initiative so important to Workforce Alliance?
Well, we have some job seekers that come to us and indicate that they have had some issues with substance abuse, but many people do not. And historically, we find that sometimes the reason that somebody was not successful in training or was not able to continue on the job was due to those issues. So for us to have the resources and that will allow us to have the supports for individuals that will let them complete their training program, have the supports that will help people find and keep a job is significant. And I just would like to say that I want to thank the governor and the lieutenant governor for bringing these resources to the state. And I also want to thank them and Representative Scanlon for supporting this initiative, but also supporting what we do in workforce programs throughout the state in general. So, and that makes a lot of difference. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So one more comment I think is important to share from the chat, and this comes from Carol. She said it's important to remember language that we use when we're talking about substance abuse, that it is a chronic illness and there are families affected. So to be careful how we talk about it and to be inclusive when we do so, that's a great point. At this point, I'm going to come back to Representative Scanlon. Again, if you have anything additional that you'd like to add at this point.
Well, yeah, I just would say that there was one other question in the chat that I did notice, and it was somebody sort of saying that they felt like there could have been possible discrimination against somebody because of their disease. And if that's ever happening, people who are experiencing, substance use disorder or, who suffer from that can be protected or are protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So if there are ever incidences of that happening, then you should certainly contact, the proper HR person in your corporation or your company. If there's no HR person, then go, to perhaps the workforce or somebody who is a partner or a helper of you, whether it's your sponsor, whether it's your family member or a friend, and make sure that you are standing up for your rights about that, because discrimination against you simply because of a disease that you have is completely uncalled for and should be addressed, whether it means getting your job back or taking other additional steps to make sure that that discrimination is righted. But I would just say in general, where we began, right, which is that, Janine said it so well, right? It's finding that purpose. And Janine, I just can't thank you enough for sharing your story. I look forward to checking in with you again in the future to see how you're doing as a recovery coach. I know Rebecca and I have done a lot of stuff together. I've had the chance to meet many, many recovery coaches, and it's not even a question that you will save lives with the work that you're doing. And if that is your purpose, you have found a hell of a good purpose. So I'm really glad to hear that's what you're up to. So just thank you to everybody who's doing this thing, and thank you for having us here today. And let's let this be the beginning of a conversation and an effort to promote Recovery Works, not just something we do once and then forget about it. And I know the Lieutenant Governor probably feels the same way, and I'll let her close it out by giving some final remarks.
Well, Sean, I'll just say ditto to everything that you said. And I want to thank everybody. And Janine, just know that we're rooting for you. The governor and I have had the opportunity, and Sean has, to meet recovery coaches all over the state. Recently, we were at a CCAR event and met some very inspirational people like you who shared their story, and they are just like you, so passionate about what they do. And that's one step in the process, and I'm so happy to learn more about recovery and support for employment of those who've struggled with addiction. That is just a really key component to make people full and productive members of our beautiful state. And we're a state that has lots of jobs open. There are so many of them in manufacturing, CDL drivers. There are so many. We need teachers, nurses, healthcare folks. So all of us need you to keep doing what you're doing. And as policymakers, Sean and I need to know what you need. And you feel free to reach out to my office, to Sean, and we look forward to continuing the journey with all of you. And thanks for letting me be a small part of this.
Great, thanks. Thank you again for being here, and everyone for participating. I'm going to very quickly just, we talked a lot about Recovery Works, and I wanted to show everyone the website where you can go to find out more information locally, workforcealliance.biz/recoveryworks. And I've also posted Allyson's email address for anyone here today looking to follow up. We hope that you do. We're here to help. And by going to that website, it's a very quick information sheet that you can fill out to get started. I'd like to again thank everyone for being on today. To all of our panelists, Representative Scanlon, Lieutenant Governor Bysewicz, Allyson, Quinn, Janine Giardino, thank you for sharing your story. Rebecca Allen, Ashley Dwyer, and Bill Villano. I'm Ann Harrison from Workforce Alliance. Again, thanks for being here today.